Most of us spend a lot of time looking outside of ourselves for answers that we're always going to have to come from within. Be your own fucking guru. That's what this series is about. I'm Ryan Paul McGuigan. This is Beneath the Noise. A lot of people spend more time than they'd care to admit not being totally sure about what they actually want, whether their current life is where they really want it to be, whether their job or however they make a living still fits, or their relationships. They're not sure if they're on the right path in general, or what direction might be better for them. A lot of people can sense that something isn't right, but aren't sure what their next best step would be to fix it. And they aren't sure about what actually matters to them at this point in their life. The questions are often there as a low background hum. Sometimes they feel like they come and go, or get louder at times and then fade back in the background. But the answers never seem to resolve for long. Be your own fucking guru. That's the name of this podcast, and it's built around one argument. The answers to those questions are already inside you. You've probably heard that before. Nobody and nothing else can give them to you. No coach, no therapist, no book, no course. They just don't have access to what that would require. How could they know you at the level it would take? Nobody knows you better than you do. You are the only person who's actually qualified to answer those questions. And the work is about getting you back to a place where you can hear them clearly again. When people lose access to their internal knowing, and most people do at some point, it shows up in particular ways. A sense that something is off, confusion, decisions get slower, more anxious, the same questions keep circling without landing anywhere. And you find a temporary answer, and then the same question surfaces again, because it was never really resolved. It just papered over. So people go looking outside of themselves, a therapist, a coach, a framework, an expert of sorts, someone who seems to have it figured out. Books and courses, conversations, podcasts, and whatever content and information they can find. And a lot of that has genuine value. I've used most of it myself, and I'm glad I did. But there's a distinction between what external sources can give you and what they can't. And we'll come back to that. When someone gets to the point of feeling like they need a guru, someone to tell them what to do, what to think, or who to be, that's usually a symptom. I've come to learn that it tends to point to something that has eroded, usually gradually and imperceptibly over time. 7 things specifically, and they're worth naming individually, because while closely linked, they're not the same thing, and people tend to treat them as if they are. The first one is self-worth. Your sense of being inherently valuable, that you matter, that you count, regardless of what you've achieved or what you've amassed, or what anyone else thinks around you. Self-esteem is its own thing. It's how you think about and evaluate yourself, your qualities, your capability, your sense of what you're able to do. Self-acceptance, seeing yourself clearly and being able to accept what you find, including the parts you're not proud of, including the version of yourself that doesn't always get it right. A lot of people have been at a quiet war with themselves for so long that they've stopped noticing it. Self-acceptance is what ends that war. And it can only come from within, because nobody else can do the accepting. Self-love. I know that phrase lands awkwardly for some people. What I mean by it is more practical than it sounds. Basic, genuine care and regard for yourself. The foundation of treating yourself well. Without it, everything else in this list is harder to build. And then there's self-belief, the belief that you're capable, that what you're reaching for is within reach, that when the moment comes, you'll have what it takes. When this one erodes, people tend to stay smaller than they are. They don't reach. They watch from the sidelines while others do the reaching. Self-confidence. This is the one most people are aware of, if they have it or if they don't. It's the felt sense of being able to be yourself in the world, in action, in how you express yourself in the rooms that matter. The one that's most visible when it's absent, and the one most people try to address directly, usually by working on the surface without attending to what's underneath it. This is the one most people are likely to Google about if they feel they're low in it. And last but not least, self-trust. Your trust in your own judgment, your instincts, your sense that when something feels wrong, you can believe it. And when something feels right, you can act on it. When this one is eroded, the other six become very hard to hold, because if you don't trust yourself to know your own mind, everything else is difficult to access. And here's what I genuinely believe about these 7 things. There aren't many problems in life that a strong foundation in all of them can't address. When they're built and accessed from within, either you overcome or solve the problems that arise, or you manage them far better than you otherwise would. Or it dissolves completely at the root. I've seen this consistently, and I experienced it for myself, and it's not a claim that I make lightly. But a lot of people are building some of these on something outside of themselves without realizing it. And I found this out the hard way myself. Self-worth especially. The job, the title, the status, the outward success, all confirm it. The relationship validates it. But if you lose the job, the status, the relationship, even through no fault of your own, the ground moves underneath them. If your self-esteem or self-confidence is built on external feedback, it moves with the feedback. What someone else says or thinks about you, or even what you think someone else might think about you. A good week and everything's great. A bad week and things can unravel. Self-esteem and self-confidence can't hold steady if they have nothing steady to stand on. So it's absolutely essential that these 7 things have a solid foundation built from within, and that you can tap into them whenever you want. But even if the 7 things are intact for people, they may still have these circling questions, because they're not tapping into the source of the answers. The reason most people haven't got the answers they're looking for through everything they've already tried is worth naming. The books, the courses, the conversations, all that stuff can add understanding of your situation, and understanding helps in many cases. But understanding is different from sourcing. You can read about and understand the concept of self-worth and still feel worthless, or self-confidence and still feel horribly insecure. You can know clearly that a situation doesn't define you and still have it feel exactly like it does. Something else closes that gap, and we'll get to it. There's one more thing worth naming now, at the start of this series, before we go anywhere else. Freedom. And I mean something specific by that. The presence of conscious choice, designing your life deliberately, so that the way you spend your time actually reflects who you are and what matters to you. A life that doesn't feel like you're just trying to get through it. When the 7 things we've just talked about are genuinely built from the inside and they can be accessed deliberately, that kind of life becomes possible. That's where this series is headed. But before we get there, something worth sitting with. Most of us started out knowing who we were. That knowing gets quieter over time, gradually, through the things that happen, the roles that we get cast in, the expectations we absorb without realizing we're absorbing them. How that process works is what the next episode is about. Thanks for listening to Beneath the Noise. If something in this landed for you, pass it on to someone you think could use it. And the next episode is there when you're ready.